welcome back to episode 14 of the Bullpen podcast. A really big weekend for us as we had the O'Hare Preseason ID. I think we had over 160 players at that event. It was a really good event to get a look at those guys in that area, and I think we saw a lot of pretty good stuff, both on the mound, at the plate, all around. So we'll get into that later in the episode. And actually, I missed kind of talking about the Kenosha event that we had up in Wisconsin too. Obviously, that was predominantly Wisconsin guys, but I know we had a few Illinois guys trickled in as well. But just kind of looking at the Super Bowl too. I mean, that happened on Sunday. Just before we get into some of this baseball talk, I don't know if you guys have any initial thoughts on it. I thought it was an absolutely awful game to watch just because the Eagles blew out the Chiefs. I was really hoping. I didn't care who won the game. I was just kind of hoping for a good game. But, I mean, obviously a blowout. What was it, 42 to 20 something, 22 or whatever? I don't remember the exact score, but it was not a great game.
Happy for Saquon. Glad my guy got a ring. That's pretty much it for me. Also, it's great to see Mahomes lose. I was glad the Chiefs lost personally, but
jeez, just got hater on the pod here. No, the final score you just mentioned, Gav. I don't even think that does it justice. It was 34-0 at one point.
Yep.
So to me, there was a whole lot that happened in garbage time, and maybe even made it look halfway decent. But yeah, it was a one-sided affair that I was not expecting. I did, just talking to people before the game, I thought the Eagles were the better team, but then how the heck do you ever count out Patrick Mahomes? I mean, and just the coaching staff that Kansas City has with Spags and Andy Reid and their special teams and everything. But no, I mean, I always kind of like seeing, whether it's the underdog or that guy, Jalen Hurts, kind of reach the mountaintop. I feel like he's faced a lot of criticism, and he's gone through a lot in his career, just back in college with the whole Tua thing, and then transferring to Oklahoma, and then he was the 50-something pick in the draft, 54th overall pick in the draft or something. I could be wrong with that. Somebody cross-check me on that if you want to, but I feel like the guy's just been overlooked, and he seems like a flat-out winner. And I love that about him. So, regardless of the game, that was a takeaway I had. And just, man, thinking about football and the Bears and just how important an offensive line and a defensive line is. Everybody says that. All those people that know football, unlike myself, talk about the trenches. And to me, that could not have been more evident in that game. They apparently weren't even blitzing Mahomes, and they were getting to him on pretty much every down. So, that kind of stuff stood out to me. But yeah, I had Hudson, my 6-year-old, all pumped to watch the game, and that kind of fizzled out pretty quick. So that was disappointing. But
Drew, I actually texted some of my buddies during the game and said, this is exactly what Mahomes would look like had the Bears drafted him instead. Just getting blitzed every time, and he's got pressure every time. He couldn't get comfortable in the pocket. That's exactly what he would have been if he was a Chicago Bear.
Well, it's funny. It was almost like that was just a reincarnation, or watching all the Bear games this year. With how little time he had in the pocket. And you could even see, he was not comfortable in the pocket. And you'd see that with Williams, immediately after the snap, he's, almost thinking, how can I get out of the pocket? And I felt like you had that a lot with Mahomes, and they were just suffocating him. That's a great call.
Yeah, but kind of turning the page to some of the baseball news that we have coming up. I think the biggest one is probably that college baseball starts this week. I think Seifert on our national call today was saying that it starts on Friday. I could be wrong about that, but I think Friday is opening day for college baseball.
D1 should be Friday. Yeah.
So I'm excited because I'm not going to lie, full transparency, I have not watched a ton of D1 baseball in the past, and I think some of that is it's hard to find it on TV, but I think from what I've seen, they're going to have a lot more nationally televised games this year. I know Illinois State is going to be on ESPN. They have a game, I think, against Evansville maybe, or Indiana State at some point in the year that's going to be on ESPN. So I'm excited to really kind of dive into college baseball this year and do my best that I can to watch more games and try and get some, like, see what a Division I player looks like at that level right now. So I'm excited for opening day. I don't know if you guys have anything on that, but
I'm going to give you a heads up here. ESPN Plus is going to be your best ticket to watch college baseball. You will literally get every game. With how all these streaming services go now, like, you could, any Division I game you can get on ESPN Plus for the most part. I follow, there's certain coaches out there that obviously I follow closely and want them to succeed, and so I'll be locked in on games. So let me know if you need any help with that, Gavin. But we'll make sure, like, whether Illinois State's on ESPN, like, you'll be able to stream all their games.
Okay, cool.
That's so while we're sitting here and it's snowing, we'll be able to watch these teams open up in Florida, Texas, LA, like Las Vegas, and get good weather while we're sitting here stuck indoors.
I think that's like one of my favorite things about the spring, and I like look back personally for me as a little kid, like turning on WGN in the spring. You have like the windows in the house open. It's like nice out. You got the cool breeze coming in, and then you hear Len Casper on the TV. Like, there's just nothing better than that. So I'm excited to just like have the sound of baseball on in the background of the apartment throughout the day, just like working. Hear some baseball going on. Like that's a good pastime and like a good feeling to have, because you know better weather's coming, baseball's coming. So I'm excited for that.
I'm just really pumped that WGN was still showing baseball games when you were growing up. Because that is like a thing of the past, and a lot of these young guys that are coming through high school right now, like, they probably never even experienced it or remember it. And, you know, kind of giving away my age here, but for me, it was, man, TBS and WGN, but TBS would play all the Braves games back in the 90s when they were rolling, and that to me was like peak summer memory. I'd be coming in and I'd get, you know, the Brave games, and obviously I was watching Cubs as well, but no, that was something that sticks out to me, Gavin.
Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned that. My brother's like as a little kid, was a huge Braves fan because he could watch the Braves games, and then became a Cubs fan. But
yeah. Well, and it was hard not to like. Like, their pitching staff was incredible. You had Chipper Jones. You had all kinds of guys everywhere. So it's just kind of easy to like them.
But so on college baseball, last week, or I shouldn't say just last week, over the past few weeks, D1 Baseball has made a bunch of lists of like the top 100 players at their respective positions. And I don't really know how we want to go about this, because we have a lot of names written down for college baseball, like Illinois prospects or Illinois prep prospects that are now at the collegiate level. We have them written down on our sheet, who we found that were ranked in the top 100 at their position, or top 50 at their position. But I think the first one maybe we want to start with, Drew, and I don't know if you wanted to get in there.
Well, I was just going to say the unique part of these lists that they were rolling out was this does not have to do with draft eligible players. Because we were kind of going through the list, looking at this, trying to figure out what they were doing. This is just in college baseball. They ranked by position the top 50 players per position. I think it might have varied, maybe. Like, starting pitching might have gone up to 100. But we were digging through this because we've talked about it a lot. Like, how guys succeed at the next level is like, we love to see that. You know, guys we had ranked in certain spots, you know, who are those guys that are going on to college baseball and the highest end of college baseball, Division I, and are some of the best players in the country. And then to see the amount of Illinois players that land on these lists, just, it fires me up. It's guys we have a ton of history with looking through this list, Gavin, all the former like future game guys, I mean, and then just pro case guys, and Dom Vagley, like a guy we had on the podcast. But yeah, I don't know the best way to go through this. I could just rattle off the list and like what events they had come to in the past. But yeah, just any noteworthy ones you want to mention. I might as well just lead with Dom Vagley, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
So what? He's ranked the 9th best pitcher in all of college baseball.
Yeah.
And he was also the conference pitcher of the year, I think we were talking about as well.
Yep.
Super happy for him. Columbia prospect, like just right down in the Metro East area, and just doing his thing at Kansas.
I just think the coolest thing for me with this is like, as a kid that grew up in a really small town, you see another small town kid do something like that. Like, good for him. Like, that's just so cool to see. The opportunities that you have from a small town are pretty limited. So doing what he's doing and getting to where he's kind of risen to over the years is super cool. So I'm super happy for him, and someone that I'm going to be rooting for and following along with for sure.
Well, and then some other arms that we found on the list, like you talk about a small town, like Brennan Cutts out of Toledo, Cumberland, went to Indiana State out of high school. He was a former future gamer. Now he's down in Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Like I think he transferred, hit the portal, but was at Indiana State, was their ace last year, had a 2-something ERA, and he made that list. And then Noah Edders, who was at Bradley, he was one of their top arms. Now he's down at Troy University with Skylar Meade, who we had on the podcast. He found himself on that list as well, Gavin. And if I'm making any errors on any of these statements, feel free to call me out.
I think Cutts is at Louisville.
Sorry about that.
Or
yeah,
Louisville,
not Kentucky.
sorry.
Yeah, Louisville. Yeah. Got to get the true Louisville accent in there. But
yeah.
Okay, so Cutts is at Louisville. I mean, that'll be a high quality arm they're bringing in. And then I know Noah Edders is kind of set to impact that Troy pitching staff as well. And then going down the list, like you've got 2 back-to-back infielders listed here. Like Estevan Moreno was a fan favorite of mine, Montini Catholic prospect, or product, I guess I should say. But he was a future gamer, also a pro case guy, and that's really like he really had me a big fan at the pro case. I remembered it was at Triton one summer when we used to run it in the summertime. Showed really well at that event, and he's done, nothing but impress at Notre Dame now. And then right behind him's a freshman making this list, which I think is really impressive, and Tyler Bell, who was a draft last year and turned it down to go to Kentucky. He finds himself on campus at Kentucky and he's listed as a top 50 shortstop by Division I baseball. And then Jimmy Janicki, another future gamer, Downers Grove North product. He's a freshman as well, just like Tyler Bell. He's down at Troy, down there with Noah Edders, and he made the list as a third baseman. We knew Janicki as a catcher out of high school, and just speaks to his athleticism. He was a stud linebacker. He told us he could play third base. I was like, you're fine. Like, you're a really good catcher. Like, let's just do that. But what a way for him to get in the lineup and make a name for himself down there at Troy at an early age. Because I know Troy's loaded at catcher. Their other catcher, he comes in at number 6 or 7th in all of Division I baseball, and was a Team USA guy and stuff like that. But Gav, why don't you, Jacob Schroeder, Illinois? I don't know if you know a ton about his history.
No, I don't.
Okay, so Jacob Schroeder is from Homewood Flossmoor. He was coming through Homewood Flossmoor at the same time as Tyler Schlafer. Schlafer was a draft by the Cubs, righty that we had at the Future Games. I love Tyler Schlafer. Probably my kind of build, lean, wiry, but man, it was one of the quickest, cleanest arms I've seen come through in a while. He was up to 94, 95 in high school, and the Cubs took him in maybe the 6th round or something like that, 6th to 8th round. But Schroeder was his catcher, went to John A. Logan, and Schroeder could always throw. Had a cannon of an arm back in high school and a legit frame. He's probably 6'3", 6'4". Who knows how much he weighs now after being in college for 3-4 years. But he started to really hit last year for Illinois, was leaving the yard a bunch. So excited to see kind of him just come into his own, it seems like. He was always a high ceiling guy. And then Jackson Bassett's another catcher, coming in at number 31 on that list. He's another former future gamer. He was a South Elgin product, and he was another pro case guy. He was a winter pro case guy, Peter, when we talk about that first one we ever ran with Victor Izquierdo and those guys and Shai Robinson. He was at that event, and he's done nothing but go to UIC and hit. He's another guy that could always really throw. So sorry, Gav, get in here if you got anything, but the history we have on these guys is so fun to see.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Drake Westcott and Judah Morris. I don't know where Judah hails from. I don't know if he's actually an Illinois product.
I think he's out of California, out west somewhere.
All right, so
He was
he's
a
getting love
transfer
just
into.
because he's at Illinois
Yep.
State.
Yep.
But him and Drake Westcott are two first basemen in Illinois that both make that top 50 list. I mean, Westcott, we've talked long about him in the past, but he's an Edwardsville product, and he was one of the most feared bats just in any high school lineup during his time in high school. Like I want to say he was a 3-time All-State selection by us, like one of the few guys that's ever done that. But started his career at Louisville, but now he's at Illinois doing his thing. Had a really good year last year. And Colton Quagliano, take me up. You give me the lowdown on Colton here, Gavin.
Yeah, so Colton went to Kewanee Weathersfield, and he was a freshman, I think, in high school my senior year, or maybe my freshman year of college. He was a freshman. I can't remember exactly, but we would play them growing up in high school and stuff, in baseball, basketball. And first of all, that kid was like probably one of the best athletes I've ever seen. He was a all-state selection in every single sport he played, every single year of high school. Football, basketball, baseball. His freshman year, basketball was like, he carried their team to like a deep run in the playoffs for basketball. Like, it was stupid. He was just an athlete, like an absolute athlete. And then he went to ICC for baseball, and he must have, I didn't really follow, but he must have done well enough for Illinois to pick him up. And I know at Illinois now, he's, obviously doing well. He's a top 50 second base prospect player by D1 baseball this year. So, no, it's a cool story. Like another small town kid just doing things at a big time school.
Yeah, and right behind him, Bo Durbin. We're talking about second baseman now. Like, Bo Durbin makes that list, and he's at Bradley. He's from Morton. And I think it kind of speaks to, like, everybody pops at a different time. I went back and I was watching videos of, like, what we had on Bo Durbin. I didn't have a ton on him out of high school. And maybe we missed on him. Maybe he got a lot better. But, like, your story is not written in high school. It's all about getting better every day and being as good as you can be when you're 21, 22, 23. Seeing Bo Durbin on that list, like, fired me up. And Morton is, no shortage of having legit prospects coming out of there. So that one kind of snuck up on me, Gavin, but was a really cool one to see.
I feel like Bradley does a pretty good job of getting those guys from that Peoria area. Like, I remember when I was in high school, like, the Shadid brothers were there, and, like, they had really good careers at Bradley. And
Spencer Gay, I know.
Yes.
Was another one.
He was like a year older than me from Morton, left-handed hitter, outfielder, Dan. I think his first name was Dan.
Dan Bolt. Had a great career.
Yes, Dan Bolt.
Yes.
But no, they always, and I mean, they've got Ryan Schaffnick coming from Morton in the 2025 class. So, like, they always do a good job with the Peoria schools.
Absolutely. And let's see, going down this list, we've got a couple outfielders. Some outfielders that make the top 50/top 70 list. Daniel Pasella, Illinois State. He's a Mundelein product. Gosh, we got a number of looks on him in high school. He was an early commit to an SEC program, and then decided he wanted to stay closer to home. I don't know all the details. That's what I was told, and ends up at Illinois State. And what a fit for him, because he went in there and got to play right away and put up huge numbers. I think exceeded expectations just from, like, he hit for average and power. I always thought he was going to hit for power. He had some of the best raw power in the class, but man, he's really taken off, and he runs good too for his size. And then Zion Rose, another top 50 outfitter. Like, he was always a catcher. He probably does both at Louisville. Like, he's athletic enough to play outfield, catch. Brother Rice product. I think he might have transferred to IMG his senior year, but other than that, like, he was a long standout at Brother Rice, and flat hits. Always hit, super flat bat. Really, really like Zion Rose. And another Louisville product that makes this list is Eddie King Jr., another outfielder, makes the top 70 list, but he's from Marian Catholic. He's one of the top prospects in his class when he graduated high school. He was another, like, really, really early commit back when guys could commit early. It was like 8th grade freshman year, and he was committed. Parker Detmers at Louisville, top 150 starting pitcher. He's another one of the Detmer brothers with with Reed, with Drew Detmers, and now you got Parker Detmers. He's one of my favorite high school arms to ever scout. Like, just super polished. Love the makeup on the mound. He makes that top 150 list. And another Edwardsville product here. We talked about Drake Westcott, but Hayden Moore, another kind of fan favorite of mine, switch hitter that was on all those really good Edwardsville teams with Drake Westcott when they were making runs to the state titles, which I feel like they do every year. But he was a Missouri State commit out of high school. Now he's at St. Louis, and he's a top 100 outfielder to know by D1 baseball. Always had a knack for the barrel and could really, really run and go get it in the outfield. So, Gavin, if I missed anybody on that list, or if there's anybody that you guys want to kind of piggyback off of, feel free.
Where was Pasella committed to? I did not know
Kentucky. Yeah, at a pretty early age. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
and any people out there, like, if I make mistakes on this, I apologize. Like, this is just going off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I'm on top of it for the most part, but call me out all you want.
And one thing I wanted to mention, and I'm probably missing teams in Illinois, but I wanted to give some love to Division III baseball here, and I just saw this being in the community here in Bloomington Normal, but Illinois Wesleyan was projected to win their conference, the CCIW, this year. So, I'm sure there's other schools in Illinois, other Division III schools in Illinois, D2, JUCO, all that kind of stuff that we're not touching on. But I just saw this come across my desk, and I thought it was right to shout them out. So I just wanted to give some love to Illinois Wesleyan over here in Bloomington.
Well, I'm glad you're giving the D3 Kings some love. Their season also starts Friday, so I like that little shout out there.
Well, and Michael Keller, the head coach at Illinois Wesleyans, he's one of the best guys out there. He was a assistant at Illinois State for a long time, kind of like right when I got into doing prep baseball. He was taking the job at Illinois State as an assistant and over there with Stalloway and those guys. But that's awesome to hear that they've got that place rolling. And I mean, Benedictine up here in the Chicagoland area, North Central College are always like just programs you better know about, and especially like every sport at North Central College seems to be a favorite to win the D3 national championship every year. I'm pretty sure their football just took home another one. And like, I don't know if it's wrestling or cross country or something. There's a sport there at North Central that's won like 20 national titles in a row or in the like last 22 years or something like that. So it is a athletic powerhouse, I feel like, over there.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of wraps up our baseball news section for this week. I will say I'm still holding out hope for Bregman and Chicago Cubs. We will see about that. I saw that yesterday they said Matt Shaw is probably going to be like the lead guy to be the third baseman this year, or at least at the start. Like, he'll probably get the first opportunity to play third base for the Cubs, but I'm sure if Bregman signs, that would change, but we'll see.
Am I missing something? I thought like a month ago they said they were going to look internally, like they were out on Bregman, and now they're back in. Like, I could have
everything I'm seeing is like Red Sox, Cubs, and maybe Tigers.
I saw Justin Turner might be in there in the mix if they don't get Bregman too.
You said Justin Turner?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. That'd be solid. I think I don't know, who was he with last year?
I think the Blue Jays.
Blue Jays?
Yeah.
All right, well, Drew, I mean, moving on to O'Hare, the O'Hare Preseason ID in Kenosha. Preseason ID, do you want to mention anything here before we get into that? I see you have a note in the doc. I don't know if you want to get into that first, but...
Oh, what's my note? So, regardless, the O'Hare Preseason ID, we had Kenosha on Saturday, and shout out to the Illinois guys. Like, it ended up being kind of a 50-50 split on Illinois and Wisconsin at that event. So really, really, really good to get Illinois representation up there. But O'Hare, year in, year out, it's grown to be like pretty much our largest preseason ID event that we run. We see so many guys at that event, and it's it's so huge for, what is our spring going to look like? Who are some guys that are popping up, emerging that we need to go look at? But no, the little nugget I wanted to touch on, Gav, was just like what I was just saying. Like, I'm going to make mistakes. We're all kind of just, talking and having conversations off the top of our head. And I want to say, like, last week I was mentioning Manuka and all the prospects that they've had come out of there, and then, like, failed to mention Nate George, just graduated in 2024, was a draft, playing pro ball now, one of the top athletes to come out of like Chicago in a while. Like him, Dylan Head, there's some that like stand out, and Nate George is right at the top. Like ridiculous tools. So no, anytime we do these podcasts, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but we'll get done with the podcast and I always go back through it in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I not mention this guy? Or I didn't mention this coach, or I didn't mention this school. And it like eats at me for a whole week. So I don't mean anything by it, and definitely didn't mean anything to, leave Nate George out. But that was just something that I wanted to mention, Gavin. And if we can ever course correct ourselves the next week, I'm going to continue to do it. So yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we just see so many players, and there's so much information that we want to try and get out. I feel like that sometimes it's hard to – we're going to overlook people unintentionally, which stinks, but I sometimes feel like that's just the nature of the beast. But Kenosha, Def, I know you were up there. Pete, I don't know. Were you up there too? It was just Def and the Wisconsin crew. Def, I don't know if you want to talk about some of these Illinois guys you have on the sheet here to kick us off.
Yeah. First off, thought it was a good event. Josh Colon over there at Puma Baseball always takes care of us. But yeah, two Illinois guys that I just thought had, good overall showings at the event. They also got spotlighted on Prep Baseball Wisconsin's Twitter yesterday. But the first guy being Zachary Collins out of Grant, 2026. Pretty good looking athlete, 6'1", 156. On the mound, he was just filling the zone with his fastball. It was funny. He was like 81 to 84. Like the whole pen. And then how we always end our pens, for anybody that doesn't know, is say, hey, as long as your arm feels okay, like last fastball, feel free to let it rip. And he like hits an 86, and it was like, Vinny was the one, Vinny Rotino, our scouting director up in Wisconsin, was the one around the mound. He's like, hey, like, you want another one? Then like he hit an 85. So, but the thing with that was, like, he was filling the zone his whole pen. He had, like, a 71% strike percentage with the fastball during the pen, which is good to see because sometimes in these, showcase settings, you get guys that just come up there and just throw and don't really care where it's going. But Zach was filling the zone. His changeup showed to be a potential out pitch for the future with some pretty good downer fade. And then just another note on him, he led the event in 30-yard dash and outfield velo. So he was 92 from the outfield. So there's potentially a little bit more left in the tank there, fastball-wise, for the future. But just the last Illinois kid I wanted to touch on was Jacob DeVinny out of Lane Tech, another 2026 grad. Catcher, he was 6'2", 170, had a line drive round of BP. It was pretty consistent. 87.8 mile an hour average with a 94 mile an hour max EV. Then he also led the event in catcher pop time with a 197. So those were just the two Illinois guys I wanted to touch on, Gav, from Kenosha.
Yeah, and well, turning the page here to O'Hare, I know this was a really big event, so there's a lot of players to talk through. We're going to try our best to get through these guys and make sure we're not missing anybody. But the first one I think that we have in the sheet here, and I don't know if this is how we want to go about it, just starting to talk about these arms. Does that sound good to you guys? Just go with pitchers first and kind of mixing some two-ways with that. But the first guy is a two-way. Jaden Ponce, I think is how he told me he pronounced his name. But he was on my mound. He's a right-handed arm from St. Ignatius. He's a 2026. He's a easy mover, athletic kid, and his fastball was up to 91. Had quality spin on the fastball and the breaking ball too, but to be honest, like the off speed, he wasn't really throwing it for strikes yesterday. He threw both a breaking ball and a changeup, but the fastball obviously up to 91, and the way that he moves, quick arm, athletic kid, like it's interesting, and he's going to be one to watch and see how he performs in game. Probably a guy we'll need to get out and see or in game at a high school game this spring, or maybe out at a tournament this summer or something. But I know he also had some interesting numbers positionally too. So him, I don't know if you want to get into that.
I mean, he filled up the stat sheet. Just like I didn't see his pen. I went back, watched the video. But you look at what he did on the day, and then you look at like we have these tiers. What are performance tiers?
Performance tiers, yep.
Yeah. So we have these performance tiers. And if you look at his blast numbers, if you look at his TrackMan hitting numbers, like he's kind of like full across the board. There was a lot of bat speed. I want to say his average exit velocity was 93 plus, launched one 370 feet off the bat. So just like when you look at a guy and he moves right and the frame is, athletic and has quality strength to come. And then he's also kind of just like putting up outlier type numbers. Like he's a guy we're just going to have to follow. Regardless of what the off speed looked like at, that day, like there's plenty of arm strength. He's touching 91. A lot of people are going to want to work with that, see if they can develop something with the off speed and then also just as a position player. So,
and also up to 93 from the outfield, Drew.
Yeah.
But
that's loud arm strength and just loud numbers across the board. Yeah.
Yeah, really toolsy. I mean, I was watching his round of BP. He was up to 100 miles an hour for an EV. And there's definitely bat speed, like you could tell just like visually. But yeah, I like the controlled intent that he had too, and it flashed some length through the zone too. So I think he's got a chance to do either one at the next level.
And then I think the next guy I want to get into is probably just. It's tough. There were two arms that I thought just with the upside of them was on my mound really, really interesting. But I think the first arm I want to talk about is Elliot Paul. He's a 2027 from Evanston. And the frame is just like has so much room to develop still. He's like 5'8", 130 pounds, but like he has a baby face. Like he just looks like not mature yet. And I think that's what was the first thing I noticed. And then, like, he's got a high waist, long levers, and then he gets on the mound. And I tried not to watch much of the TrackMan data as it was coming through while I was evaluating the players. And he was throwing strikes with all of his pitches. He moved well, and I thought that was, like, super important for a kid that's a 27 to be able to throw strikes with your curveball and your changeup. And then I look at the TrackMan data, and he's got like a low 80s fastball, and he has that upside still with his frame where like the velo can come. If you've listened to our podcasts over the past couple months, coaches say we can develop velo. Like that's not a problem. They want guys to throw strikes and get outs. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway from Elliot Paul was just his ability to command. Maybe I shouldn't say command, but control his three pitches. And the upside. It's a really good mover, and I'm going to try and get his video into this section of me talking about him so you guys can see visually what we're talking about with these players. But no, Elliot Paul, he's one to follow, and I'd love to see if he pitches for Evanston's varsity team this year, this spring, and if not, we'll have to get it to him at a tournament or something. But another arm I liked was Nathan Moline. And he's kind of one that I was having a tough time with deciding between who I liked more, Paul or Moline. But Nathan Moline, very projectable frame, but he's kind of like a little bit taller than Elliot Paul was. He's 6 foot, 156 pounds. And again, I really liked the way he moved, and he threw strikes with his like kind of fastball slider. The changeup was pretty good too, really low IVB. And got some good horizontal movement and like sink and depth on it, or fade kind of. But I like the way he moved. And then looking at the fastball, it's in the low mid 80s, and he had quality spin on it. So I really like Nathan Moline too, and he's a name that I've seen. I think he's been at some events in the past, maybe like a fall event or something. But he's a 2026 from St. Charles East, and he's a right-handed arm. So another one that I really liked, just the upside of that arm. But I don't know if you guys have any other arms you want to mention here. Do you want to talk through some guys? But those were kind of my three probably favorite arms that I saw, I would say.
My thing would just be like we're starting to talk about players from events, and we had the IHSBCA convention a couple weeks ago. We sent out preseason questionnaires to high school coaches a while ago, and we'll re-up on that and get some more hopefully in. But like, what's so awesome about these winter events is St. Charles East, right? Nathan Moline. We already kind of like them. Like Joey Aaron goes there. They've got Dylan McCabe. They've got James Fiegelson. They've got some other guys that like we've come to know. We know they're good players. We think their team's going to be pretty competitive. But then you get your eye on like, okay, Nathan Moline. Like we hadn't seen him in a while. Comes out. You're a fan of him, Gavin. Like, first off, my head goes to, okay, like let's see what their high school coach said about him in the questionnaire. So we cross-check that. But then also like, okay, this is another arm that St. Charles East has that's going to help them this spring. So like, this winter is so huge on then how we go about our Power 25. The guys we already know about from games we've seen in the past to then guys we know about because coaches reach out to us on them. And then we get to see some of those guys and cross-check them ourselves before the season. So Nathan Moline, just watching the video we had in his profile from last year, like I really like the way he moves. I like the way the arm works. And now it looks like the velo's creeping up and just a good call out there.
Then I can hop in here, Gav. Touching on the mound, or touching on the guys that were on my mound. Leading it off is Billy Main out of Hinsdale Central. Now, he's ranked for us, and he was a state gamer for us, but it was as an infielder. And I did some digging. He hadn't pitched at an event for us since 2022. And he came out and was 87 to 89 with the fastball. Wasn't, super efforty or anything like that. It was coming out of the hand really well. And threw 3 pitches for strikes. His changeup was good. In this look, his slider, he was throwing for strikes, flashing out pitch potential. But the changeup I thought was probably his best pitch, coming out, out of that same tunnel as a fastball and then just dying at the end, with some arm side fade. But I'll let, you guys touch on him offensively and defensively as well. But Billy Main was easily my favorite arm I saw, just, having feel for all 3 pitches in the zone.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the better bats of the day as well. There's definitely some intent in there too. He was up to 91 for the EV, and he's also a 6'9" runner. So pretty toolsy, and the arm really works on the mound too. I was watching that video. That's definitely pretty interesting on the mound there.
Well, and it also kind of goes back to what Drew was saying about St. Charles East. Like, I haven't checked to see if we've gotten Hinsdale Central's questionnaire back, but I mean, they should be interesting this year, especially in their 2026 class. Like, you got Kassab there, you got Patrick Connors, who's a very athletic outfielder that we've long liked here, and now you throw in Billy Main also on the mound, who we've already liked, positionally. So, just another team to keep an eye out for is Hinsdale Central, but couple 27s that I think are just upside guys to know. The first one being right-handed pitcher Jackie Ryder out of New Trier. 6'4", 202. Gavin was talking about with some of his arms, that very young look. He's got that as well. High-waisted kid. There's probably, he is 6'4", 202, but there's definitely room for growth there. Physically, on the mound as well, but he was low 80s and it just had a ton of sink and run. Nothing overpowering right now, but that's okay. He's got plenty of time, but he was another kid who was just kind of filling the zone. His changeup had some arm side fade to it as well. Averaged 19 inches of horizontal movement, which is pretty absurd. He was also throwing that for strikes. So, that's Jackie Ryder. My next guy is left-handed pitcher Grayson Waters from Oak Park River Forest. 6'3", 170, long levered. Another kid with a super young look to him. Really loose arm. Fastball was clean out of the hand, but it had a very heavy finish to it. Like, he seems like a kid in the spring. I wouldn't be surprised if he just misses a ton of barrels in game. And also really liked his curveball. He had some spin feel to it too, with 12-6 action and depth to it, and just lived at the bottom of the zone with that pitch as well. His slider was, just kind of okay in this look. Kind of looked a little bit like his his curveball, but also like his changeup looked quality in this look too. So really like Grayson Waters, another one of my favorites on the day.
And one I forgot to mention this arm. Dylan Ignasic was a left-handed pitcher that I saw from Barrington, who was 2026. And I know we've said it a lot. You always want left-handed arms. Like you're looking for those guys. And Dylan was like a very clean mover. And he, again, another one of the guys that I was looking for, just pounded the zone with strikes with all 3 pitches. And just looking through the video again, that's what I was trying to actually find. And he has a really sharp breaking ball, and he averaged 25.66 RPMs on that pitch, and it has really good shape. And just like watching through it again, he gets it down in the zone, he lands it for strikes, and having that ability to throw a curveball for strikes is huge in getting kids out at this age, and then obviously at the next level. And then his fastball, it comes out of the hand clean and low 80s, but again, you can develop that, and as he continues to get older, that velo will hopefully continue to come. Just because of the way he moves, I think there's just a lot more to come in that frame. So that's Dylan Ignasic. I think that kind of covers the arms that we wanted to talk about, Def. So I don't know if we want to move on to some position players. Hammett, do you have anything?
I'm gonna hop in with Jenner Smith first. He's a 2-way. He was on Steve Nielsen's mound. And Steve is, at least in my opinion, a pretty strict grader. I don't know, Drew, you can maybe agree or disagree with that, but Steve loved him, had a really good grade on him, and he's actually someone that we liked with the bat in the fall. Just looking at his numbers, he actually did pitch at the event in the fall, and he was like 78, 79, and he was up to 81. So he's already ticking on, adding some velo. 6'2", 160-pound frame. Love the way it moves, the arm action. Really love that arm action too. Like, it's going to continue to, that projects more velo down the road as well, but just the repeatability with it, the cleanliness, the fluidness. He had really good feel for a slider as well. Good spin for his age. Advanced 3-4 pitch mix that he was landing for strikes. Starter profile. And I did not see his run of BP, but he was a guy that we really liked this past fall with the bat too. So he's definitely a name to know for Hersey 2028. But I don't know if anyone had anything to add there. I was kind of break this up by year and position, if that's cool with you guys. So I think...
Yeah, while you're getting it organized, like Jenner Smith, to me, the younger a player is, like, the less important the radar gun should be. And even just these guys we mentioned, we mentioned some guys with some arm strength. I think as you get older, you get to that 2026 age where you can be recruited. Like, that radar gun starts to play more of a role. I think there's certain indicators you have to hit to get a Division I coach to look at you or whatever it is. So, but those young guys, they have so much time. And it's not about being 88 right now as a freshman. Like, if you are, great, but it's about getting better. And Jenner Smith is just one of those guys that we've talked about that, like, the frame is only going to continue to get more and more impressive. And he's athletic and everything works right. Like Steve, I know just talking to him after the event, really liked the intent that he threw the breaking ball with. And just one of those pitches that, like as he gets stronger, it's only going to get sharper. It's only going to become more of a wipeout, go-to secondary pitch. And Steve didn't even see him as a position player. So Jenner definitely has a bright future. And that's what we're looking for out of these young guys. Like, don't come and, spray it all over the, the mound or whatever. Just show us quality movement patterns, that you're athletic, that you have a quick arm, that you can throw multiple pitches for a strike. And those guys are easy to project on and dream on. So that to me is what we're looking out of out of these young guys, like especially these 2028 position players, like their foot speed's going to be behind. If there's one, tool that I tend to see tick up the most from a guy's like 8th grade year to senior year, it's that 60 time. So like, don't get so out on a player because they run a 7.8 as a freshman. Like if it looks right, if it's long strided, running on their toes, like not on their heels, and they're light on their feet, those guys tend to really improve that 60 time pretty quick.
Good stuff. Another arm that it looked like he liked was Justice Hernandez, who's a name that we're really familiar with. Saw him a ton in the fall and the summer. He actually came to the super sophomore games for us. Looks like he was up to 87, so he's already adding on some more velo. Just looking at his notes here, twitchy, really intentful on the mound, likes the wiry twitch, and it looks like the slider is continuing to get better and more firm. Throws with a lot of intent. So Justice Hernandez, just another arm that continues to show well for us.
Well, and that was the guy that was at our super sophomore games. You saw him, Pete, I think last year in a Wisconsin tournament. And then he just blew up from there and got invited to the super softs. But we mentioned a new Trier arm earlier that Defaball saw, and then now we just mentioned another new Trier arm. So these are all things that we're putting in that memory bank, keeping notes of. Is like, okay, new Trier's got a couple guys, like we knew about Justice, we didn't really know about the other one. And I mean, that these good programs, these bigger schools, good programs, the Edwardsvilles of the world, like they're going to have guys rolling through their school that maybe we don't know about. And then all of a sudden we're going to go see them this spring and be like, okay, you've got 2 or 3 quality guys that like you can add to your depth chart that we didn't even know about. So I'm glad we're seeing them this winter. That's what it's all about. You mentioned some position guys you got here, Pete?
I think I'm going to go with my first guy, Chase Nelson here. So I was sitting on hitters all day, so saw a ton of hitters. It was a pretty good event, but he was one that stood out for me. It's an athletic right-handed swing. I really liked the controlled intent that he had too. Like he was swinging with a purpose. I know it's BP, but like you can still like tell a lot from that. Like not shying away, trying to show off the juice. He was up to 101 miles an hour for the exit velo. He's also a 6.85 runner, so definitely some tools to like there. Jacob Conover. Hopefully I'm not butchering that. Also, Chase Nelson's from Fremd, 2026. We're going 2026 is here first.
Well, and even before you get going, like Chase Nelson, younger brother of Cooper Nelson, went to Fremd. Now he's committed to Wisconsin Parkside, I want to say. But he was kind of a late bloomer. Really came into his own like his senior year and even in the fall, from what I understand. And he's a guy we didn't see a ton of. But it sounds like Chase may even have like a higher ceiling. So we already know his brother's going to a quality program. Like Chase is a guy that he shows he can hit, he runs. You better believe that's a guy like we're gonna make sure we need to see. So sorry, I just wanted to butt in on
good
that.
For sure. Next guy, Jacob Conover. Hopefully I didn't butcher that for the 3rd time in a row. But
I think you're on it. I think you're on it.
I hope so. Wheaton Warrenville South, 2026, left-handed hitter. He took the loudest round of the day. I mean, man, it was big time juice to the pull side, up to 102 miles an hour. He was actually able to use the whole field, too. He was showing some backspin up the middle. I was really in on the swing, so that is for sure a name we need to check out this spring.
And he's a guy that's hitting in game. Like, I've seen him for a while now, in the summer, in the fall, and, like, I think the first time I saw him ever just stood out because he hit a triple into the right center field gap. But he, for anybody that's kind of done this for a couple of years, he really reminds me of Nick Dirtina, the way the bat works and it plays. Nick Dirtina had a really good career at Nazareth. He was committed to Louisville. I believe he's found his way over to Harper Junior College right now. But the way the swing works, the flat path, the backspin contact, and I mean, the fact that you said he peaked at 102 with the exit velocity, Pete, like he didn't have that kind of strength the last time I saw him. So he clearly got after it in the weight room this winter. Love to see that.
It was big time juice. Moving down, we got Nathan Oliveras from Notre Dame College Prep, another 2026. Now, he's just another toolsy guy that I liked. He was a 6.99 runner, 98 miles an hour for the exit velo. And he had some explosiveness, too, to the bat. So another name we'll need to check out. Moving down, one of our favorites that we've seen throughout the years, Lon Roberts. He's a switch-hitting infielder. He's undersized, but you watch him play the game, and that's just one of those guys, like, the stats don't really matter too much. Like, all that really matters is what you can do in game. But you're right, you were watching him with me, Really like the way it works from both sides. I think he said he was a natural righty, but we were watching the left side and we were like, dang, that really works. Really like how smooth and easy it is. There's some whip in the barrel too. Tries to stay up the middle, pretty polished, and we really like the glove on the infield too.
One thing with Lon was last year when we saw him in the winter of 2024, he ran a 7.9460. And he comes to O'Hare this winter, and if I switch back to the Vault, he runs a 7.28 on our Vault lasers. So you're talking about cutting it down by more than half a second on his 60 in 1 year. So like that really right there like turns him into a prospect. We long thought he could hit, switch hitter, handles the bat from both sides. I also thought he looked like he had physically developed as well. Like almost looked like a different player. And I mean, that foot speed is going to kind of propel him to become a prospect. And sometimes like we talk about, hey, there's certain like indicators or measurables you have to hit. Like if you're playing the middle infield and you get to be a junior, a senior, and you're running a 7.9, like that makes it very hard for somebody to recruit you. You don't see middle infielders, at that high level. Running over a 7.1, a 7.2. So Lon seeing that improvement, that is what it's about. It's about the improvement. And getting it down to a 7.2, like if I were a betting man, that's only going to get better. It's probably a matter of time before he is a sub-7 runner. And then you factor in the bat, to, just like the hit tool. Like, let's go, Lon Roberts. Like, kudos to you. Like, you're the one doing it, putting the work in clearly. That's awesome to see, Pete.
I did not know that. That's really big time. Good for him. Moving down, I'm going to go to first baseman Alec Ramey from Willowbrook, another 2026. Another one, big time juice, up to 101, right-handed hitter, big pull side power, and he created a lot of length through the zone that I really liked, so I could see that playing in game, staying through the zone for a while. Elevates a lot to the pull side, but big time juice, and it looked like he was a smooth defender at first base over for Coach Rosner as well. And then we got Jacob Jelinek, another infielder, St. Ignatius 2026. He was up to nearly 100 miles an hour, 99 miles an hour for the EV. I really liked the compactness in the swing and the tight turn through the zone. It was really tight, and he looked like he was intending to lift the ball to the pull side as well. And he was up to 88 miles an hour across the infield. So another toolsy infielder there.
And little does he know, he's going to be a guy that's going to be impossible for me to forget, because in our office we have Chris Jelinek. So when I saw Jacob Jelinek and I saw the grades that we had on him, I was super fired up. I know Jel will be fired up. So Jacob Jelinek, like good work with that last name, because that'll be a hard one to forget, and you clearly showed well. So good day on Sunday for him.
And then moving on to some 2027s here, one of the first hitters to go. I think, Drew, you saw him as well because he's right in your backyard. Jack McDaniel, Hinsdale South, 2027. He was one of my favorite rounds of the day, easily. Left-handed swing. Got the smooth left-handed swing, super polished, used the whole field, and he was up to 94 miles an hour. So I know that's not the end-all be-all, but for me, like, I will usually watch the kids round in BP and not try to look at the TrackMan at all. And I really liked his round, and the checking after, it was really good to see that he actually did have some good numbers. So there's some potential power in there, but I just loved how polished it was, how easy and fluid it was, and I think that kid's really got a chance to hit.
Well, and to your point about like not watching the TrackMan, it's I feel like hitting can be deceiving versus maybe like throwing the ball across the infield or maybe a guy on the mound, because like even the noise a bat makes can almost make it seem like it's louder than it really is or something like that. But it's always good when the eyes match up with the TrackMan and you're like, all right, that ball is coming off different, and then it matches up. But yeah, like you mentioned, I did see his round of BP, and it's a swing like we talked, like it's very foundational quality swing that he was able to repeat, stay on the barrel. I thought he showed some feel to hit, which in BP, that's always something I'm personally looking for. Like, man, it's great to have 100-mile-an-hour exit velocity, but if you're showing me no feel to hit and you're rolling balls over to the pull side and every hard contact to the pull side, it's a BP swing. And I want to see guys that can really handle the barrel, spray it around the yard with authority. And he's a left-handed hitting catcher too. So like left-handed hitting middle infielders, left-handed hitting catchers, left outfielders, like they're always going to, if you just put them same talent across the board as right guys, the left-handed hitter's always going to be just a tick higher level prospect as far as the value. So he's got some things definitely foundationally that are good pieces. He's only a sophomore, and he'll be one to watch.
Yeah, Drew, I think that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Like, he did not give me all or nothing vibes at all.
Yep.
He was very controlled, and to see that he was still up to 94 miles an hour, that's what got me fired up. That he was like, just another day, like just his warm-up round of BP, just hit it to the whole field, and it was 94. So
normal effort, right? Yeah. And balanced. Mm-hmm. That's another, like, how easy do you get to your power?
One of the better-looking frames walking around was Carson Trevelini, Crystal Lake South, 2027. He's 6'2", 170, and there's a ton more in there. Another younger-looking kid. He was a 6'9", 7 runner, so we can expect that to continue to get better. Right-handed hitter. I like the swing. He's another one that creates a good compact turn. He stays pretty flat through the zone. And he was up to 95 miles an hour for his exit velo. And I know I did not see the defense, but Drew, we've really liked his infield defense in the past, I believe.
Well, we talk about these athletes, right? Like Gavin mentions Colton Quagliano at Illinois and how he was from Kewanee and just an absolute stud. Like Carson Trevelini, I haven't seen it. Apparently a baller on the basketball court. You hear that, and he's a middle infielder, and we liked his actions in the past. He was a junior future game guy. Like, of course, I'm going to, instantly be drawn to that. The other thing about Carson Trevelini, we just mentioned it with Lon Roberts. Like, I was not sure Trevelini's foot speed. You would think, hey, high-level basketball player, he probably runs like a 6'7", but when we were doing rankings, for these early age guys, and you start breaking it down, and you got to be very, very careful ranking young guys in general. He was a guy that confidence level wise, like he didn't run great at a younger age. When you start talking about a pure, just true 60 straight line, like I'm going back to his profile because I want to make sure I have this right. But in 2023, we didn't get a 60 time on him. In 2024, he ran a 7.55. And it was last winter. That's at that age, like not terrible. That's gonna continue to tick up. I didn't know how much it would tick up and how fast. He goes from a 7.75 to a 6.97. Like he's a guy now. Like it's pretty much as simple as that. Like when that foot speed ticks up, if you want to call yourself a shortstop or a second baseman, to me that's when it becomes okay. Like you better have foot speed. If you want to call yourself a third baseman, a first baseman, and kind of the more you get away from the middle of the field, then okay, maybe the less important your foot speed is. But for Trevelini, man, him doing that, and we're talking like future game follows and guys we're gonna get to need to get out and see, like he's on my list.
No, that's good stuff. Moving down in my backyard now, we have infielder Sam Marshall from Downers Grove North. Another really good looking frame, 6'2", 156, so a ton more to come there. I really like the smooth and balanced left-handed hitting operation. I thought that really stood out to me. Another polished round, a ton of upside in there, loose hands with some flick in the barrel too, like pretty easy effort, not, like we were just saying, not trying to just rip it to the pull side. And he was up to 89 miles an hour. So that's one of those guys where like you watch the round and you love it, and then you go look at the TrackMan. Okay, it wasn't the craziest exit velo, but he's a 2027. He showed a ton of feel to hit. He was not trying visually very hard, so you love to see that. And 89 is not even bad. Like that'll continue to get better as you get stronger throughout the years. But love the polish. I think that kid's got a big time chance to hit moving forward here. And then my last 2027 here, he was one of the better defenders on the day. It looks like Abraham Jose Cesares from Lyons Township, 2027. Some really good notes on him on the infield. Fluid and easy, really high level defender, can move easily to both sides of the glove. And a switch hitter too, so he'll be one to follow for sure moving forward.
So at the end of the day, there were probably 15 to 20 hitters you didn't see, and he was a guy over on the other infield that I got a chance to look at. So he is a super unique story. He just moved in from Venezuela. He doesn't speak more than a couple words of English. And they are trying to figure out right now at Lyons Township what grad year he'll actually be. Because he's older. I think he's 17 years old, but he's listed as a 2027 just because of the way the academics fall. So they're wondering, like, how can we get his GED? How can he get into a position to go to a JUCO, that sort of thing? But he's a real prospect. Apparently, it was the best actions and infield defense on the day. And then it's a real bat, too. Like, switch hit. I didn't know he was a switch hitter until he's, like, coming up lefty at the end. And I really got me fired up. But no, handles the barrel from both sides. Just a little ball player is what he is. So yeah, keep an eye on that name because it's a unique situation. I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know who can recruit him and when. It sounds like it's probably going to have to be a JUCO type thing. But yeah, he had a good day for himself, and he was a name that I was kind of hearing about this winter that had just like shown up, and glad we were able to get our eyes on him.
No, that's I just put two and two together. That was the guy we were hearing about, huh?
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
I did have one more actually, an outfielder from Amundsen. Am I butchering that?
You're good.
Amundsen?
Yeah, you got it.
Amundsen?
Yeah.
All right.
As far as I know.
Yeah, Gav, I don't know. Maybe. That's probably, where is that, in the city?
Yeah.
Okay. He was just another one that took a really loud round, big time juice. He was up to 97 miles an hour for the EV. So just wanted to mention him. But moving into some 28s here, another one of my favorites on the day. We were kind of going with the walkie-talkie, shouting some names that were coming through that we really liked. And Hunter Lockefear was one that I had thrown in the chat. St. Viator kid, 2028. I had mentioned I liked him, and Defabaugh immediately came back with that he took one of the better rounds of defense in the outfield as well. So smooth left-handed swing, compact and balanced. Feel like we're a record. Just keep repeating the same thing, but that's what we like. That's what we want to see in BP. Ton of field to hit, up to 93 miles an hour for the EV. 2028 was not visually trying hard again, but up to 93. And then I did not see the defense, but it looks like he was really confident defender with good hand stuff. Am I right there?
Well, and he took it in the outfield first for you, Tyler, and then he went over and did catcher defense as well. So he's a versatile left-handed hitter.
I'll let Gav touch on it too because I see he's unmuted, but just one note on him, watching him catch pens, it didn't look like a freshman in high school. Like he looked so advanced behind the plate, and sorry, Gavin, if that's something you were going to mention, but huge fan. Like for a freshman, his actions were very, very advanced.
I was going to say that exact same thing because I saw you had him in here, Pete. So I went through and was looking through our videos and just saw the swing, and I really like that swing. Like there's just something about that kid to me that I think he's going to be really good one day. And when we were doing bullpens, he was like, I had some brief interactions with him, and just as a human being, he just seemed like a really good kid, nice kid, and pretty mature for his age too. So like I thought that was a big plus to add to Hunter.
Like to Gavin's point there, like sometimes you just have to trust your gut. Like a baseball player looks like a baseball player sometimes, and I'll never forget. Sean Duncan had that same exact opinion on Ben Hartle. It was a long time ago when Ben Hartle was like a sophomore, came to our preseason All-State, and Dunk was sitting on all defense and just saw him doing catcher pops. I don't even think he saw him hit, and he's like, I really like that guy. Like, and so that spring I went out to watch Ben Hartle to see if he was a future gamer, and I mean, Ben Hartle was the definition and is the definition of just like a baseball player. So sometimes you just got to trust like those initial takes too and see where it leads you.
No, for sure. And just some names I wanted to shout out, just some names that, they're freshmen this year and some names to follow throughout their prep careers. They're all 2028s here, but Jathan Colazo, an Oak Park River Forest kid that I liked, Henry Burke from Lake Forest, Gaetano Lazara from Lake Park, Noah Correa from St. Patrick, and then Carmen Falera from Nazareth. So just some names that I liked on the day as well.
Testing us with these last names.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
that was tough.
pronunciation.
That was tough. First take, that was not easy.
Crushing it.
Just one little note. Henry Burke from Lake Forest was another kid who really impressed outfield wise. Just from my memory on Sunday, that I thought had a really good showing.
And so one thing I love to do after the event is break down the numbers, look across the board, see like what stands out. And maybe they didn't take the best round of BP on the day, whatever it is, but like they're checking so many boxes and like, okay, that's an outlier number, that's an outlier number, that's an outlier number, and like you have to pay attention to those guys. Mason Bloom at New Trier, like he's long kind of done this. He's a rank. He was at our Illinois State games last August, but and I've long been told about him, like the high school coach Napoleon. His summer coaches really like him, but he ran a 6.68. He's 82 from the outfield, 98 exit velocity, and it's actually been like louder than that in the past. So like just a physical framed outfielder that can flat run, has power in the bat. And there were some other guys like Quaylen Petty, 2025, that I think just we've called him out, after the Unsigned Senior in the fall, but he goes to St. Lawrence and he ran a 6.56 and he's 91 from the outfield. And it's a long athletic frame with all kinds of liveliness and twitch to it. Like, I got to keep shouting out those tools. I feel like you got to take a chance on a prospect like that. So there's other ones. Matthew Donnelly led the event with a 6.50 60, and it was actually a 6.495 60, and that 1,000th decimal place is the one that it rounds. So it rounded up to a 6.50 in our system. But he's a 2027 and he's running a 6.50. It's like, okay. So the beautiful thing about this is this event is so far from being like cross-checked and over. Like we're going to go look, like double, triple check these videos, watch them again, make sure that, hey, maybe I was distracted for a second during BP and I just didn't get the best look. That happens. And so we'll look over all of our notes, watch these videos. But I'm sure there's probably some other guys that you may want to call out randomly here or there. So let me know if there is anybody. Because I love looking through these lists and just kind of breaking down, okay, who are the top runners? What else did they do on the day? But then, like, looking at the blast numbers and looking at, I don't like looking at the peaks. One guy could take one swing and it just something happened where the peak, bat speed or hand speed goes ballistic. But look at the averages. Like, that's going to give you a much better, like, feel for what guys are bringing to the table. And we talked about Jaden Ponce. Like, we mentioned him at the beginning of the episode, and it might be Ponce. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But, like, he led the event in bat speed, average bat speed, 73.6. Jackie Ryder, we mentioned him. He was second with 72.3 average bat speed. I know a guy that Steve liked was Alex Toth. He liked him on the mound. He said he had really good presence stuff for being a 2027. He was also top 5 in average bat speed, and I think we had good notes on him as a hitter as well. So like a two-way guy, to watch. One guy that, I'm running around at this event. I'm watching a little bit of everything, like kind of just enough to get me in trouble. But a left-handed hitter with a very long, interesting frame from Wheeling, 2027, Reed Gurgitz. Or Gurgertz, I don't know how you pronounce it. I went back and I watched the video, and I could almost kind of tell while he was hitting that he was almost frustrated with himself. But it's like you look at these younger guys, and I'm trying to pinpoint on like, okay, like who's gonna be that guy in 3 years? Who's the one that when they're a senior, we're gonna look back and be like, look at what this guy turned into. He really kind of struck me as a guy that like I'm gonna follow the trajectory of Reed. 6 foot, 159 pounds. He's kind of got like the trim build, but the shoulders have some width in the back to where like I feel like there could be some developed physicality there. And then the swing, it worked. Like I could see it adding a little bit more fluidity as far as like the hands were a little dead at times. But I really, really liked the swing, and I think, man, it almost gave me like early Brendan Tunick vibes with the frame and the left-handed swing, and I just like, okay, I'm gonna keep an eye on you. And then I want to say he ran a 7.09 60, and he's a 2027, so like that's only gonna get better. Max distance of 328. Like, who cares? That's going to get better as he gets stronger. But it does show me, like, okay, he can elevate, probably to the pull side. Like, we talked about what we look for when you're watching hitters, Pete. And like guys that show feel to hit, I think is really important. But one thing I'm also looking for that tells me a lot about a guy's swing path is guys that elevate the baseball to the pull side with backspin. It's hard to do. A lot of guys elevate the baseball to the pull side with topspin. And guys that elevate to the pull side with backspin, it tells me their bat is going and staying through the zone correctly, and they're getting on top of the baseball and creating that backspin. And he was one of those guys that had a bat that I thought could kind of provide that in the future. So I know it's kind of long-winded on Reed, but one of maybe the 15 hitters that I actually saw live that day, and it stood out to me from man, I could dream on that. So I'm sure there's so many other guys we can mention too, and there's going to be other guys that when we go out and roll out, hey, top catchers from this event, top infielders from this event, there's going to be guys in that analysis, in that article, that we didn't talk about today. Because we are all different eyes doing different parts of the event. And it's all about, okay, when we collectively look at everything and then we rewatch the videos, we look over all the notes, look over all the data and stats too, because that does play a role in this large pie that creates a player. There's going to be different names that emerge being like, oh my goodness, okay, maybe this guy only had a certain grade on his bat, but he ran a 6.75 and the actions on the infield are legit. Oh, Andy hits left-handed. So, like, the defense, the run tool are going to overvalue maybe that hit grade or whatever it may be. So, I know that's a lot of talking from me, but just a lot of different things I feel like to educate or inform these parents that had kids come to this event. And, hey, why are you mentioning this guy and not this guy and this guy? Like, hey, there's plenty of more players that are going to emerge from this event as we dig in deeper.
Yeah, Drew, and I'm glad you said that. You kind of beat me to it. After this event, or after each of our events, just be sure to follow along on the website, on Twitter, on all of our social media platforms to see any of that post-event content that we have to shine a brighter light on the players at that event. I can't say with confidence at the moment if the statistical analysis story is out just yet, but that's a story that we'll have coming out after an event. Stat story with some basic data, like looking at some basic data from the event. And then our quick hits, where we talk about some of our favorite players from the event, probably broken down by position at an event this size. And then we'll have our data dives, where you kind of dive into more of the, detailed data, some of the more TrackMan analytics, blast data, some of the more like your casual, regular...
Advanced.
Advanced. Thank you. That's the word that I'm looking for, the advanced data. But with that, if you're on our website, I don't think we've talked about this yet. We kind of rearranged the way that the news tab looks. It's now called the media tab, and it has a drop-down. And the top drop-down under that media tab has news. It has our YouTube, our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then the Bullpen has its own page as well. So we kind of broke it down a little bit different, but if you are on our website, you would just go to that media tab and then click news, and you'll see all of our news information from, that we've posted, articles that we've posted. Or if you just go to showcases and click event results, you can look at events that have happened, click into that specific event that you're looking for, and you'll see a news tab in there with articles just from that event. So for O'Hare, you could just go into the O'Hare event, look at the news tab, and see all of the post-event content and stories that we've posted from that event, because we highlight a ton of these players and stat stories, like I said, quick hits, and then obviously now our podcast too. But I think that kind of wraps up our player talk from O'Hare and Kenosha, and we can kind of move into, I think, probably all of our favorite segments of the week, and that is Prospect of the Week. So Drew, I see you've got your guy on here if you want to kind of start us off with Prospect of the Week.
Yeah, I finally turned the page, at least for this week, and I went with the 2026. I had been going with 2025s for a while, some unsigned seniors that I thought deserved some love. This 2026, his name is Jamison Rapinchuk, and he goes to Harvest Christian. he kind of got on our radar last year at the Illinois State games. Left-handed pitcher, was up to 87, last year. That was going into his junior year. So, like, pretty firm velo there for a left-hander at that age. And all he's done since, like, this winter, from reports we've been getting, is like he's seen his velocity just continue to increase. I'm almost kind of putting him out there as like a pick to click at the All-State event, like a guy that I could see out coming out of that, a big winner. Would not shock me if he, is touching a 90, 91 at that event. But he can also spin the baseball. Stronger physical frame. And I like the way he moves down the mound. I think it's a loose, quick arm. Like, there is some effort in the delivery from what we've seen in the past. But I like Jamison Rapinchuk, Harvest Christian, left-handed pitcher, 2026. Get him on your board now because, after this March 1st event that we run, I think he could be a guy that we see kind of shoot up our prospects list.
And then Pete, do you want to go in here next, or Def? Like, either one of you guys, feel free just to hop in here.
Yeah, I'll hop in here, Gav. I'm gonna go with Maximos Barabal. So he is a 2025 from Plainfield North. Checked his socials, uncommitted as far as I know. I know he was dealing with some injury last year, or maybe in the fall, but should be good for the spring. He's a left-handed pitcher. He'll work kind of low mid 80s. Really like the way it moves down the mound, really clean. And he's kind of long been that like clean mover. Not very big. He's about 5'10", but there's still some room to add on some weight. And he's also got a slider and a changeup too. And I really like the shape of the slider. He's shown the ability to throw that for strike. I guess swing and miss, and he'll also flip in a little changeup in the 68 to 70 mile an hour range, and he'll kill spin on that. So just a left-hander to know. I know lefties are always sought after. So if you're still looking for a good little pitchability lefty, Maximos Barabal.
Then my uncommitted prospect of the week actually popped for me at O'Hare. I was saving him for this segment specifically, but right-handed pitcher Braylon McNair out of Lindblom Math and Science Academy, 6'3", 169. It was hard not to notice him walking around. I believe before we hopped on here, Drew was saying like, oh yeah, I remember noticing this guy walking around the Bow Dome on Sunday, and on the mound, it's a quick, athletic arm. It was just super interesting. If there's, any schools out there still looking to fill out, their 2025 class, I mean, I'd circle this kid. There's projection there, in my opinion, especially with the body. But the fastball was clean out of the hand with carry through the zone. He was sitting 83 to 85. But I also really liked his slider. It played more vertically. It's maybe more of a curve ball, but had hard bite at times and was locating it at the bottom of the zone. So big fan of Braylon McNair after this weekend. And if there's any coaches out there looking for an uncommitted senior, got a guy.
And then to wrap this up, my uncommitted prospect of the week is catcher Max Green from Taylorville. He's a 2026. He's just a strong, compact kid. He's a right-handed hitter. He's 5'10", 191 pounds, and has a lot of strength in his frame. The measurables are right. It's a 93.8 exit velocities. It comes off the bat well. He's had a 334-foot max distance. And then I really like to watch catchers that can just really receive, and he really can. Like, if you watch the way that he receives, he's got good actions behind the plate. Had a 193 pop time, 77 mile an hour catcher velo. I think sometimes he gets a little too actiony behind the plate, but I still like the way he moves. He's flexible. He can move around pretty well back there. He can block it up, and he's one that I've seen a couple times. I went to see him in game, and I saw him hit a home run in game. And if you just look through his profile, we've seen quite a few in-game hits from him, whether it's at tournaments, things like that. So he gets a little uphill at the plate, looks to try and do some damage to the outfield, I think, with it. But he's uncommitted, and I like him. I really like him defensively. So uncommitted, 2026, Max Green from Taylorville. But I think that kind of wraps it up. But Def, I don't know if you want to get in here quick.
Yeah, I just had a final thought to the listeners, with college baseball starting, to parents, to players that listen to this. Go watch a game. If you're a guy that, wants to go play college baseball, especially in this state, there's like, I feel like a school, within every 30-minute radius. Go watch a game, especially as the weather turns. A lot of these schools aren't going to be playing home series for a while, at least the Division Ones. But man, go watch a game. Get a feel for what the atmosphere is like, how some of these coaches coach. It also gives you an opportunity to see what a college campus is like. With most of these stadiums being on campus. So just my, plea to the listener. I think it's awesome. I remember when I was younger going to see a regional at Louisville, seeing Wright State play. I think it was like the 2015 regional. So, and it really drove me to want to be a college baseball player, seeing the atmosphere, how guys were playing. So I think college baseball is awesome. I think the sport's continually growing. And in this state, there's no reason not to go see a game. So that's all I got.
I think on top of that, Def, it gives you, sorry, Pete, I see you want to get in here too, but it gives you the chance to see what a college baseball player looks like the size of them. Like for me, when I was in high school, if I went to watch a Illinois baseball game or Illinois State or something, I was like 160 pounds. College baseball players just don't look like that. They're filled out dudes. They're men. So I think that's a big thing that you will take away from that is seeing what a college baseball player looks like and then use it and be honest with yourself. Like, is this me right now? Do I look like this? No. How do I get there? So that's what I would add to that.
Yeah, and just seeing the talent, right? Like, it doesn't even need to be Louisville. Go watch like North Central. They're gonna run out an arm in the low 90s probably almost every game. So is whoever they're playing. That's just the game now. So I would encourage you to go look at a game of like every level. Go watch a JUCO, D3, D2, D1, and then see like they're not that far off. Like the top guys at each level, other than like your big time SEC and Power 5, Power 4 guys, like there's going to be Division 3 guys that can play at that level, and that's what they do. They bounce and they go there. But like the top level of those players, pretty similar. The depth is where it kind of falls off. But like just go like he was saying, be realistic. Like see what it actually looks like to play not just college baseball, but like Division 3 baseball, and then be realistic with yourself in that way as well.
And then I think one last thought that I wanted to add, I don't know if you guys have you're going to have anything with this, and feel free to just jump in whenever if you do, and if not, that's fine. But I think one thing that I've just personally noticed, like when we're out and about at some of these events, is like parents mentioning our podcast, which is greatly appreciated that like you're listening and you enjoy it. But with that, do not be afraid to like, hey, like I think you should do this. I think you should bring this up, or I think you should do this segment less, or whatever it may be. If you have any opinions on it and you see us, like I personally will not be offended if you tell me, hey, this part stinks, change it. Or if you want us to add more in, like whatever, any thoughts you guys have, if you see us in an event. For me, I don't want to speak for you guys. Feel free to say it to me. Like I don't care. I will not be offended. So I love all feedback. I want feedback. I want to do this better. I want to make this better for the players, better for the parents. So anything we can do to help make that happen, please let us know.
Absolutely. None of us are professional podcasters by any means. I feel like we're still somewhat new to this. I know we've been doing it for almost a year now, but on top of that, like if you have ideas for our spring, what we should do with this podcast come springtime, all of us on this call will probably be going out to games at one point or another throughout the weeks in the spring. So if you have, any ideas on how we should, podcast this thing in the spring, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'm gonna add here is just be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube. It just really helps our algorithm, I guess. So if you could like, comment, subscribe. And actually another thing too, I want to do is try and like make our comments section like a community kind of. Hey, you comment something baseball related. Hey, we'll get back in there and try and keep the conversation flowing and just make it like an open discussion if we can. Try and keep it as positive as possible, and we'll comment back and maybe get the conversation continuing to flow to just have some more baseball talk. But that wraps up episode 14. Appreciate you guys listening and joining us today. A lot of information that we talked about with some players, which is always good. It's nice to be back into the showcase season and soon to be high school season, and just getting to see baseball again, it makes me happy. I know it makes you guys happy. So appreciate our listeners. Appreciate you guys sticking around this long, and we'll see you next week.